Okay, so this is about value, right? There's all these different forms of value. There's all different types of variety of value. There's wealth. There is humor. Somebody could be very funny. There's intelligence. Somebody could be very sharp and smart. There's pre-selection, which is the members of the opposite sex find a person intelligent. There's also attractiveness, and those are different. Those are different. A person could be very attractive, but they might not have that much pre-selection, or they could be unattractive, but strangely have a lot of pre-selection. The person could be confident. They could have a lot of experiences. They'd be quite adventurous. A lot of forms of value. One of the forms of value, it's almost like it usually pops up as a value, but it's not really a quality that anybody can actually like. It's kind of like saran wrap, and that's like fame or celebrityness or renown. That's not something anybody likes. You can't really like that. You can like intelligence. Oh, I like that the person's intelligent. Oh, that person's attractive. Oh, that person's hot. Oh, that person's funny. That person makes me fucking laugh. Oh, I like that. Or I guess, being skilled in some area, like being really culinarily competent, smart with cooking, or good with some like technology or something, anything. Those are qualities that are likable. Someone could be adventurous or experienced, but like renown is kind of like a saran wrap that you can't really like that. No one can ever really like that. It's like a I don't know. It's like a window. You don't really like look at the window. You look through it. It doesn't really matter. So that's kind of an interesting distinction there. Now about DHV spikes. You can do DHV spikes in stories or kind of subtle ways, because if you have a form of value, you're going to want to advance that. For a while I had a lot of pre-selection somehow, because I think this chick I was dating gossiped with her girlfriends about how good of a kisser I was, but she taught me a lot. I wasn't that good of a kisser, but she helped me become a better kisser, and that might have helped having the pre-selection. I don't know what it was, but it was pretty cool. Well, another thing I've noticed is, like, if I'm at a pub, like, women see me and they look like they want, well, not always, but I've had women see me and they kind of sidle up next to me with eyes or body language that says, "Whoa, I'm interested in fucking you." That's what the body language says. And then I start talking and be all like, "Oh, should I get vodka or gin?" And I think what happens is how I look doesn't match up with my voice. And that's been something that's been really a huge thing for me. Because I think maybe a lot of my voice stuff is acting. Could be. Well, it definitely is in some ways. But definitely is also my natural voice in some ways. So there was one thing I was considering experimenting with, probably in a Google Hangout, but also possibly in real life, in a metaphor. Is doing a Hangout and then not using voice and just using like body language, like removing a piece of clothing and like seeing what the other person does, and just using body language. That'd be really hot. Could you imagine how hot that would be in real life? You just see an attractive woman, and then you just take off a piece of clothing. You take off like a garment, and you look to see her reaction. And if she flees or looks at her all weird or freaks out, then that's not desirable. But then what if she takes off a piece of clothing, and then you're like, okay. You just think like, okay, and you take off another piece of clothing, and she takes off another piece of clothing, and then you just like make out and fuck without ever talking. That would be so awesome. That would be so hot. Oh, that'd be awesome. That's kind of arousing. Because so many times I talk. And I like talking. I like doing voice work. Doing voice work is uplifting to me. I really like doing voice work. But it's kind of like there's nothing bad about it. But just with like, sex is not talking nonstop. But I liked talking nonstop. But I'm saying, like, I guess I'm trying to devise a way for there to be like a distinction between doing talking stuff that I like and then just like sex stuff. Like that might be a fantasy. I see an attractive woman. We're in some place where it's okay to remove clothing, Never met. She's attractive, she's arousing, she's hot, or she's beautiful, she's sexy. And I don't say anything. I just look at her, and I remove a garment of clothing. And then she does the same thing, and I remove another garment, and then she removes another garment. And then we just make out naked and fuck. That would be awesome, but there's no talking involved. I mean, there's removing a garment of clothing and then looking at the other person's response. But I really like that. I mean, I think the things that gets me talking is I get a question that I don't like, and I don't like most questions, like, where are you from? I don't like that. What's your name? I don't like that question. I don't like those questions. Because I have a lot of answers for those questions. And those aren't a simple question. Those are complex, loaded questions. Where did I grow up? Where did I want to be from? Where did I learn a lot? Where are some friends? Where did I have bad experiences? Where did I have good experiences? Where did I want to be? Name, that's like, name I don't use, my name I do use, a nickname, a name that's kind of like uplifting. It's like, yeah. So that's kind of a third dream, I guess. It's not really that much of a dream. It's kind of a fantasy. Ooh, I should start a fantasy section on the vlog. I mean, on my channel, my OMSS channel. That'd be really nice. That definitely is a fantasy. I would start as fantasies, fantasies and dreams. Yeah. So this is definitely a fantasy. I see an attractive, hot woman who I would naturally, fantasize about, masturbate to. But I've never seen her before ever. And, so she's hot, probably has big boobs, or is sexy or beautiful in some way. I mean, I did a vid about the difference between sexiness, hotness, and beauty. And I just see her, and I don't talk, and she doesn't talk. And I just remove a piece of clothing. I remove a garment of clothing. So I just take off a piece of clothing. And then I just look at her and just see her response. And then, of course, in the fantasy, she, isn't like, ew, or like, oh my gosh. She just kind of looks at me, and then she removes a garment of clothing. And then I watch her do that, and I remove another garment of clothing. And then she removes a garment of clothing. And then I remove another garment of clothing. And then she removes a garment of clothing, and then we're both naked, and then we make out, totally naked, and fuck. Well, it's obviously totally naked, without ever having talked. And with that little kind of like body language reading, rapport, removing clothing, that'd be really hot. That'd be so hot. Because something happens when I talk to a person. And it's kind of like I get all worried, or I get all infected with their ambitions or their desires or their wants or their dreams or what they like and what they don't like, and what they're insecure about, what they're confident about, what they want to do. And it's just like there's too much information, And it's probably the same thing about me. Like if I use my voice too much, they get too much information or something. Or if I use my voice, I end up kind of going into like a helping mode or an acting mode or some voice podcast mode, which is kind of fun at times. I love doing at times, but there wouldn't be any voice in that fantasy and that would be really. Because I think it's like with voice. I mean, I love voice. I love doing voice work. Oh, it's awesome! It's uplifting to me. But like in a purely sexual romantic session, it's kind of like voices. You could be like, ooh, oh, hey, looking attractive there. Oh, you just removed a garment of clothing, and kind of like, not killing the moment, but like I love doing voice work. I love it. But like in a romantic setting, sometimes it might be better just to be like. I don't think it would kill the mood, but just it's kind of, I like voice work, I like that stuff. But it's actually kind of the opposite of romantic sex stuff, isn't it? Romantic sex stuff is just non-voice kind of focus stuff. Sort of, Actually, maybe I'm actually standing up straight for once. Could be. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, good. Anyways, so that's kind of a fantasy. Cool. Ooh, it's awesome. Yay. Ooh, it's awesome. But it's about voice, because it's like, I love doing voice work. It's energizing, it's uplifting, it makes me feel good, it makes food taste better. It's like work. But then, like, pleasure mode would be, well, sexual fantasy mode would be kind of like, you know, just like kinesthetic. Just arousing, touching, fucking, thrusting, squeezing, licking, sucking, slapping. You know, physical things, physiological, kinesthetic, feeling things, and talking a little bit. Okay, but you know, but this fantasy is without talking. That I don't have anything against talking. I love talking. Oh, it's awesome. I love voice work. But yeah, so that's cool fantasy. I just thought about that. Why would that be so arousing? Because they would just be like, they wouldn't be like the, hey, how's it going? How are you? Well, okay. Where are you from? Where are you from? Screening. You know, value. Do you have value? Do you have value? Do you have value? It would just, the only value that a person would look at would just be attractiveness. Yeah? That's something kind of hot about that. Where a person isn't screening you for certain values and all that shit. And of course, there'd be no people procreated, and there'd be no diseases in the fantasy, obviously. Anyways, and the woman would be obviously hot. She wouldn't be ugly. So, yeah, there's a little cool fantasy. Anyways, so like, oh yes!